Many of you, it'll open a lot faster. Up at the top, here you have your financial briefing. That's a narrative. In many ways, that is all you need to know on a daily basis. You might look at that once a day, and if you want to dig further, you can. But the narrative tells you really what you need to know in our opinion. How much cash you have on hand, what is your AR, your AP, your sales, how do they compare for the prior year? What is your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, how many liquid assets you have compared to current liabilities, that kind of thing. Now, if that's not enough, the idea is that you read down from here. You read down left to the right, and it gets more detailed as you go. Cash and liquidity box right here, you'll be able to see all of the key numbers that are related to your company's cash and liquidity. How much cash do you have? How much money do you owe? That type of thing. Under sales summary, it's just very, very brief. What are your sales today, and how did they compare to yesterday, how did they compare to today, a year ago? And then what were yesterday's sales, in case you missed them, because that number is really only good until the day's over, right? So what were yesterday's sales compared to yesterday 1 year ago? Under key business measurements, we have all of the key measurements for the contracting industry. The ones over here on the left, the cash and liquidity, those are pretty generic for all businesses. Sales summary, pretty generic for all businesses. But the key performance measurements, that's specific to the contracting world. We want to know, what are our sales per employee? What is our gross profit dollars per employee? Now, if you ever want to know what any of these mean, you'll notice that in the corner, there's a red highlight. If you see the red highlight, then I've added a note for you. And I type these notes with my own fingers. So these are in my words, explaining what I think is important, etc., where the data comes from. Just hover over those and it explains it to you. So, for example, gross profit per employee. What is it? Why should we care? What's a good number? How did you get to that number? We explain it here. Installation backlog. I'll just explain it, even though you can read. These are the installs that we have sold, but we haven't yet began the work. That's a good number to know, because for planning purposes, you're going to need to know how much installation work you have already sold so you can be thinking about how to do it. Sales leads in progress, potential value of those leads. Now, I have a couple of zeros and blanks here on purpose because I want to explain to you how you can easily solve that. When you see some zeros, then that means some work needs to be done in Total Office Manager to get that information in here. We have potential value of the leads, OSHA reported safety incidences. Now, what is that? Again, we can hover over that, and it says this comes from the employee's contact log when the what best describes of the topic is equal to OSHA reportable injury. See, you set these up in log topics, and I can show you that, but that's how you learn where did that information come from, what do we got to do to get it into this system. Key financial ratios right there. Those are some really good ones. Billable to unbillable employees, for example. Your direct labor to sales ratio. These are mostly specific to our world, the contracting industry world, especially field service. Now, as we go down, we have more and more information. You might stop here. You might be the president or the CEO, the owner, and you might stop here. But as you go down further, there's more and more information. Finally, one of my favorite things, Total Office Manager has this feature, but I've always liked what we call the super condensed income statement, where it just shows you very quickly where you're at without getting into all the detail. You can see your income, your labor, equipment, parts and materials, gross profit, overhead, net profit. Now, if you want to know more, again, you can keep going. You can go to the income statement summary year to date. And this shows you all of your departments, all of the income, direct labor, equipment, parts and materials, gross profit, your overhead. It figures out your overhead. It uses Total Office Manager's allocation system to allocate overhead so that we can tell you what your net profit is by department. So rather than go into Total Office Manager and run those reports, you might find this is a lot easier to just look at this year to date. Now, we also have month to date, which is right now the same as year to date, right? For most of us anyway. The summary for last year is here. And that takes us to department data summaries. So again, that's your income statement, accurate. It's as accurate as the bookkeeping. It's coming right from Total Office Manager. The department data summaries is, again, a favorite of mine. You'll see on the left-hand side of your screen a list of all of your divisions, if you have divisions, and departments. Now, typically, a division is like residential, commercial. Maybe for you, it's HVAC, plumbing. And within each division, we might have departments such as demand service, service agreement, equipment replacements, new construction, that type of thing. That is, again, coming from Total Office Manager. Here we can see all the information that I could think of, that my friends in the industry could think of. I consulted with people like Drew Cameron, with Gary Elix, with other people that I respect, appreciate, and asked them, what information do you want to see? What's important? And then I added my own. And what I came up with is this giant list here. Not all of these will be important to you, but you can ignore them if they're not important to you. Such as, how many contacts have you added? How many customers have you added? Meaning contacts that have spent money, and the tip says so. How many invoices? Diagnostic only service calls, invoice labor hours, timesheet hours. So now you know how many hours you're paying for versus how many hours you're selling. And it expresses that also in a percentage. We have tech labor efficiency that gives you a percentage of that efficiency. We also have service agreements, service agreement renewals, service agreements expiring this year, service agreements expiring next month, sales leads created, and so on. I'll just scroll over here so you can see just how much information is in there. One thing you might like is the sales activity. How many leads? How many leads are in progress? How many leads have you closed? What is your sales closure rate? Notice, though, we're not talking about any employee. So I might tell you what your sales closure rate is or your efficiency is by department, but you don't know what employee created this great number or this not so great number. Remember, the idea behind the company dashboard is data for the whole company by department, categorized by department. Okay, so I'll come back to that if there's any questions. Let's go to the residential division. Here is your residential division in your company. All the numbers that you could possibly want, your sales, your budget, how do you compare, all of the important numbers with explanations of all of them. You can see the explanations here. And then we have within the residential division, we have the demand service department. We have maintenance. We have replacements and add-ons. We have accessories and indoor air quality. Again, this is coming from Total Office Manager. We have new construction, warranty, and then the entire division. Now, each of these departments have different data. There are some common numbers, but each one of them has different data that's important for that particular department. Such as the demand service makes a big deal out of how much you spend on labor and how much you sell labor for. We also have a commercial division here, and it's the same thing: demand service, maintenance, replacements, design build, specification, the entire division. If you do plumbing work, you'll have a plumbing division, for example. You'll have an electrical division, and so forth. Now, the magic of this spreadsheet is that it is, when you open it from Contractor Compass, it's grabbing all of the data that it needs from Total Office Manager's database, and it's arranging it in such a way that it's easy to read and digest. The nice thing about the fact that it's in Excel is that you can modify the spreadsheet if you want to. I mean, no matter what, everybody's going to have an idea on how this could have looked. It could have been better, so you'll be able to modify that. All right, a couple things I'll show you, then I'll move on to the other scoreboard, the technician scoreboard. You may not have this in your version. We have an update coming out to this dashboard. You may not see this button, but it says normal Excel view. If I click that button, it'll take me into Excel, and I can see all of the controls in Excel. It doesn't look like I'm in Excel at the moment, but I am. We just have it in a presentation mode, as we call it. You'll also notice there is a new button here, and that is a refresh button. If you click that button, then the data will reload from Total Office Manager. It'll refresh all of the numbers, recalculate everything, just with a click of a button. That's new. You used to have to go into the toolbar to do that, and we're no longer showing the toolbar, so we added that button. Also, this dashboard will refresh automatically every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, it will refresh. So if you were to put this on a TV, you could get a computer, one of those real inexpensive computers that don't come with a keyboard or a monitor or anything else. And they're only like $225. You could get one of those computers, connect it to your company's network, install Excel, and then you would install Contractor Compass, and that's it. That's all the computer would need. And then you would run your dashboard on that TV permanently, and it would refresh itself every 30 minutes. And you wouldn't really even have to turn it off at night. You could just let it run all night if you wanted to. It could run 7 days a week. All right, let's get out of here. And I will just say, no, don't save. And now let's talk about the technician scoreboard. This is really exciting. I'm really excited to show you the technician scoreboard. It is really awesome. Took a long time to build. Before I go into that scoreboard, let me tell you where that last dashboard came from. I want to give credit where credit's due. The idea behind that was me going to a EGIA class taught by Gary Ellis. They opened up a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet was to departmentalize all of your company's financials. So in the class, and it's a 2-day class, you spend the entire 2 days working in this spreadsheet. You're supposed to bring your company's financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, everything you can bring. I mean, whatever you can bring, you're supposed to bring it. People were remoting into their office computers, and for 2 days, and there was nighttime work. People were working on it at night. For 2 days, they were filling out this spreadsheet so that they could get the data that you just saw. And I was in that class and thought to myself, there has to be a better way. And I asked Gary and EGIA if I could borrow a lot of what went into that spreadsheet, and they agreed. And that's what you just saw. You basically saw, I think, a better looking version. We spent time making it look good for presentation purposes, but what you just saw is basically an improved version of that Excel file. It has everything that Excel file had in it and some more. So that's where it came from. It came from that EGIA class. And by the way, the recommendation in that class is you should have a part-time employee filling out that spreadsheet every day. So they recommended you get a part-time employee whose only job it is 20 hours potentially a week is to just fill out that spreadsheet. It's about a 25-hour per week job. In fact, you wouldn't do it daily probably, but with ours, not only do you not need a part-time person, but it fills itself out every time you click the button or every 30 minutes automatically. All right, let's go into the technician dashboard now. You'll notice it's in the custom dashboards area. That's because you can make your own dashboards. And what I did is I created a copy of my company dashboard. I put it in the custom dashboard area. I gave it a name called Technician Scoreboard. Remember, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and I began working on it. It took months to do it, but that's how I did it, and you can do the same thing. You can make a copy of these dashboards and build your own. Let's open it up. To open this, you double-click. You should get Excel should open. It looks like normal Excel right now. You should see a progress bar come up. For some of you, the progress bar is super fast. In this case, it takes a little while because I'm returning hundreds of thousands of rows of information. It's a huge company file that I'm drawing from. If you didn't hear it earlier, remember, it connects to Total Office Manager's database, your company file, and it runs a bunch of what we call queries to gather information and bring them into the spreadsheet. Now, that information comes into the spreadsheet, and it's inside hidden worksheets or tabs, and you don't see that data, but the data's in there. And then what we do is we present the data in a more appealing way, like this worksheet that you see here called the Technician Scoreboard. It can take a while to gather information depending on how departmentalized your company is, how many departments you have, how many employees you have. Mainly, it's the number of work orders and the number of invoices that can really slow it down. All right, so here we are. We're inside of it. Now, you notice it went into what we're calling presentation mode. We made all of the Excel-like features, controls, and things disappear so that they don't clutter up your screen. Our intention was that you would put this on, in addition to having it on your desktop, our intention was that you would put this on a TV, and you would have scoreboards all over your office, all over your building, in the warehouse, the break room, certainly where the installers hang out, where the technicians are, etc. And you would just let it run all day long. Now, I have it set to all departments, as you can see right here, all departments. What you would do is you might put this on a TV in the area where you know your service technicians are mostly going to be, if there is such a place. Then you would pick the department that we're talking about. Maybe it's demand service, maybe it's just residential and commercial service, or maybe it's the entire division. But you pick the department that it pertains to, and then you select the date range. Maybe the date range is just today. Maybe it's month to date. And you can also change how the technicians are ranked by selecting a different value in the rank technicians on dropdown. By default, we're ranking technicians the way I believe they should be ranked, and that is gross profit dollars per person day. I know there's a lot of other values, but nothing says more about a technician, about a billable person, any billable person, not just a tech. Nothing says more about the effectiveness of a billable person than gross profit dollars per day. Obviously, it's more important than revenue because they could have a lot of revenue or sales, but be very unprofitable. So by taking all of their revenue after discounts, subtracting all of the costs of goods sold, what we're left with is gross profit dollars. And then we divide that out so we have an average number per day. And what we want from people is $650 or more in the demand service area. It's $650 or more. Now, if you want to learn more about where it's getting the information, what it means, what we recommend, again, you'll see that there is a little red corner. That means that we have an explanation of what it is, where the information comes from in Total Office Manager, what number you might be shooting for, etc. All right, so remember I said that the last dashboard, the company dashboard by department was all about looking at your company's financial information by department. Tons of data, but nowhere in there was a technician's name, an employee's name. This is where you would see that information. If you want to know the performance of a department so that you can evaluate a department manager, you want to go to the company dashboard and look at the performance of their department. If you want to know the performance of an individual billable employee, regardless of what they do for you, as long as they are billable, they will appear in here with data. So there is your gross profit dollars per person day. We also have labor to sales ratio. Your labor to labor sales ratio is a key performance indicator highly recommended by Drew Cameron, Gary Ellicks, EGIA, and yours truly, James Leichter. Service agreements sold. How many service agreements have they sold? One common question that we get is, how the heck did somebody sell 0.2 of a service agreement? So we have somebody in here that sold 384.2 service agreements. How could that be? Well, that is when we had more than one name taking credit for that sale. So if you ever see a 0.2, 0.5, a point anything, then that means that in our software, it is possible that more than one person can take credit for that event. Maybe it's a callback, a zero amount invoice, a sale, a sales lead, etc. Some things won't have a decimal point, and that means that only one person can take credit for that piece of data. If it does have a decimal point, when we're talking about a number, not a dollar value, of course, a number, when we're talking about a number, the decimal point means that more than one person can take credit or can be assigned to that piece of data. We will know how many sales leads were created, how many invoices were created, the gross sales amount, service agreement discounts given. Like, how many discounts do they give, after all? Maybe we want to know that. Let me scroll over here and show you the rest of this. Finally, we have the gross profit dollars. That's important. Gross profit margin, average invoice amount, average gross profit dollars per invoice, in case you want to know that. How many zero amount invoices do they have? And then again, what is that? Well, we tell you. It's an invoice that has zero on it. It could have zero because everything on it was a zero. It could be a zero because it was discounted down to zero. How many diagnostic-only service calls did they have? This is certainly a key performance indicator. If you're a service technician, I want to know how many times you run a service call and the only thing that you put on your invoice was a diagnostic fee. Where does that come from? You might find zero in yours. This explains how to set it up, where the data comes from, where your company might want to be. We try to give you advice on what numbers your company should be shooting for. Of course, that's generic advice. It's like prescribing something without seeing the patient, but we try to give you general rules. Hours billed, hours paid. I love that one. How many hours did you bill or invoice? So in other words, how many hours did you charge the customer? How many hours did you charge me? I should be paying you about the same number of hours that you're charging people, right? Well, we will know it here by tech. There's no way to hide, by the way. If you are a billable employee and you have your bookkeeping down really well, there is no way for anyone to hide from this scoreboard. It's like the NFL stat sheet on every player. And we even have a quarterback rating coming for your techs, by the way. We have a technician rating that's been in beta for a long time. We give you a one-number score that takes into consideration many things like the quarterback rating. All right, moving on. Billable hours efficiency, service agreements sold by percent, indoor air quality and accessories sold. You might want to know who is selling the most indoor air quality accessories. Who's creating the most sales leads? You'll know it here, all of that. Now, the technicians that you see here are the only technicians that are possible. So in other words, if there is no technician, then that would mean that the software has doesn't have that data. It has no way to know because the technician has not been assigned to any of this data in Total Office Manager. All right, remember, you can switch different departments, different date ranges, rank them differently. One last thing I want to say about this, and then we'll talk about getting things set up correctly. You notice that some of these have a red frame around them. I'm sure that we're going to get questions on that. The idea behind the red frame is to highlight the most important numbers. So for me, it's all about how do you rank, because you rank based on gross profit dollars per day. But I also need to know that number because it may be that everyone's not doing well. Finally, labor to sales ratio, which has a lot to do with gross profit dollars per person day. Service agreements sold by number and sales leads created. I think a demand service technician's job, when it comes to anything beyond being a great tech, is to produce gross profit dollars per day. To do that, they have to have a good labor to sales ratio, but they also need to sell service agreements because they're good for everybody. Our clients need service agreements. They also need to create sales leads, and I mean legitimate sales leads. If they're not creating legitimate sales leads, then you are either working on a lot of perfect systems, which I doubt, or they're just not concerning themselves with identifying legitimate opportunities to improve people's comfort, health, safety, and efficiency. You'll see the normal Excel view button if you joined us late. If I click that button, it takes me into Excel. So I'll just click that button. I didn't do it earlier. When you click that button, it opens up Excel the normal way. Now it looks like Excel. You're like, that does look like Excel. So now you can rearrange columns, change colors. You can change things in the spreadsheet if you'd like to, because it's just an Excel spreadsheet. That's all it is. It gets its data from Total Office Manager. Where is that data, by the way? Notice down here, 2 things showed up that weren't there before. If I click Department Info, you can see where it's getting its information from. The scoreboard worksheet, as they call it, gets its information from the Department Info tab. The Department Info tab got its information from Total Office Manager. Once it's in here, then we beautify it. We total it up. We do things with it. We have all kinds of formulas and math in here. We total it all up, and then we present it in a nice way so you can make sense of it. And then we give you filters so that you can filter things out.
Hey, James.
My engineer has a comment for me. Hold on just a minute.
I need to interrupt you for just a minute. We're having some issues. We have some of our customers reporting that they have blurriness, and they're not able to read things. So we have checked on our side. Our recording is a clean recording.
Okay.
So it is not blurry on the recording. And what we'll do is we will send that out to everyone when you're done.
Okay. Thank you. So I have an important announcement. An important announcement live. This news is just coming in from my engineer. All right, seriously, though, some of you have been reporting that the broadcast is blurry. And you haven't noticed this. I'm in a room with lights, cameras, and stuff like that. People are running around here, and I'm pretending like I can't see them. But they've been running in and out of here, checking things. It is not on our end. It appears to be, I don't know, something with the internet. I'm not really sure. But on our end, we're broadcasting clean video. Most importantly, the recording that we're making is clean. We've tested that. So when we're finished here, we will work hard to process the recording. It takes us a little while to get it done. And then we'll get that out on the internet and send everybody links to it so you can download it. So if you're one of those blurry victims, I apologize for that. But understand the video will be available to you. Okay. Thanks to my coworkers for pointing it out to me. All right, so I was just explaining how this works, basically. When you open the spreadsheet from Contractor Compass, it connects to your database with an encrypted connection, and it opens up Excel and fills in Excel with data. You don't see the raw data unless you go looking for it. It's in here. Now, if I scroll, you can see there's a lot of data. A lot of data. We could have 1 million rows of data in here. And once that data is in there, then we start totaling it up, filtering it out, and we present it here. And if you want to go back to presentation mode, then you can just hit presentation view, that button, and it'll take you right there. Now, the reason why I point that out is you could use that data to build yourself another scoreboard. You could make a copy of this scoreboard, call it scoreboard 2, and you could make your own. Now, it may not be easy for some of you. Excel can be easy to use, but it can also be very in-depth, very complicated, but it's all available to you. The sheet is password protected. This whole workbook is password protected, and each sheet is password protected. That is just so you don't make an accidental change, but we give you the password. The password is in the help tab, and I'm not going to click it because I don't want to show it to you and have it on the video. But it's in there. It's no secret. We just don't want you to accidentally change this. Always work from a copy, though. Now, if you are interested in knowing more about where all that data came from, what those columns mean, we have explained all of it. If you go to aptora.com, go to help, go to the help center, and let's type in contractor. Start typing in the word Contractor Compass, and you can see Technician Dashboard. And I will just open that one. And I'm going to open that one too. And open that one. So get them all opened here. This is the help topic on the Technician Scoreboard. It shows you, or pardon me, it explains the idea behind it, how to set up the software. It actually takes you to a link. It gives you a few tips, takes you to a link. How to use it. Obviously, it's very easy to use. You just click a few buttons. There's not much to know. We do explain how the refresh works, how it refreshes automatically, how you can click the button, and so forth. Down at the bottom, though, we get into some heavy info. And you probably don't need to know any of this. Most of you, I should say, won't need to know this. But for those of you who want to get in here, roll your sleeves up and start building your own, modifying this, etc., then we talk about how that information was gathered, how it is displayed, how we use formulas, where things are hidden, tips and tricks. We also define every piece of data that you'll find in the tabs, the various worksheets. So you'll see a column, for example, called Essay Expiring This Year. We explain it. You'll see a column called SOIAQ what? What is that? Well, we explain it. So all that is detailed. We have a good help topic on how to install the software. Easy to install it. And there's various tips and tricks. But most importantly, we talk about, in this help topic, how to get ready for it. I mentioned earlier that it is only as good as the data inside Total Office Manager, of course. But how does that data get good? Good bookkeeping. Well, what's good bookkeeping to you? You know, what's your idea of good bookkeeping? That's where we explain it. So we talk about all the things that are important in Total Office Manager that you do that really make a big difference in getting the most out of this tool. We have a solution, I'm told.
Hi.
Erica's on.
Yeah,
All right.
I came to a different room. Okay, so for most of you who are familiar with the webinars, you're used to seeing the chat. There's a Q&A session instead of chat where we put messages. In there, Christy actually gave us the answer to the blurry, or what is that called? Window. You'll want to right click on James's video footage, and then you'll see an option to pin it. When you pin it, it will bring it forward and then minimize all the other windows, and it takes the blurriness away.
Okay.
Got to love Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft overcomplicating things.
They came up with the new Teams in February, so we're learning it.
All right. Yeah. Sometimes too many settings Thank you, Erica. Well, this is a live broadcast. That's what happens when you don't record it. If we were just recording this and we didn't have a live audience, we'd just clean all this up. But I think that's good. I like the live element to things. All right, so we talk about things for you to check in Total Office Manager, and we're very specific. We tell you exactly where to go, what item to look for, what box to check, et cetera, and so on. So I won't read it to you, but I'm scrolling it to show you how long the help topic is. Now, we have a lot of documentation, by the way. We have over 1,000 articles, not pages, articles. I don't know how many pages it would be. I don't know if there's a way to count because, it's the internet. You just keep scrolling. I don't know how many pages that would turn out to be, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. But we have 1,000 plus articles, help topics on our website. Usually there's an answer to virtually anything on the website. True. I'll be the first to admit it's not always easy to know how to find it, what to search for, how to find it. How do you know you found it? Number one, how do you know you found such a thing? So that's always a challenge. We have some good ideas on how to improve that tremendously, though. So check out those help topics. I will show you a few things, though, that the help topics are trying to show you. If you came late, remember, this is a new feature to Contractor Compass, the technician scoreboard. We just came out with it. It's been in beta for a little while, but we just came out with it and started releasing it to the public. And one feature that the other dashboard has, that this has, is this refresh button right here. That will refresh all of the data from Total Office Manager. It doesn't refresh live because, remember, it is like a report. Reports don't refresh live typically, so it's not refreshing live. You have to click that button. But if you don't click that button, it will refresh itself every 30 minutes. And the idea behind that was put this on a TV, a big monitor, something like that, and just have it on the wall and let people see all this data in real time. Let's go into Total Office Manager, and let me show you a few things. Inside Total Office Manager, you may or may not have noticed it, but there are a lot of what best describes this, or check boxes that describe things or help describe things. For example, when you create an item, and let's do a service item, for example. This service item would be used for labor, but it could also be for a diagnostic fee. We don't know which. We, meaning we, the software, we wouldn't know what this was for. You could use it for an hour of labor, 10 minutes of labor. It could be used for a diagnostic fee, whatever. You get the idea. How do we know more about how you're using this? Well, if it's labor, and you type in the word labor, that doesn't really help us, and we certainly don't know how many minutes this is. So you would populate the 60 minutes. Now the software knows that this is 60 minutes of labor. One more thing to do. Come into the accounting tab and check the box labor only. Now the software understands, regardless of what you've called this, it knows it's labor. And regardless of how you've described it, it knows you're selling 60 minutes of labor. So if your quantity is 0.25, then you're selling 15 minutes of labor. You could also sell 15 minutes of labor if you'd prefer. And a quantity of 1 would be 15 minutes. A quantity of 4, 1 hour. That's how it understands how many minutes are being sold. And you can see that's critical for reports. It's critical for Contractor Compass and the various scoreboards and dashboards that we have produced and will produce in the future. Coming back to the accounting tab, you'll see it also offers a checkbox for this is a diagnostic fee only. That's how we would know to count up how many diagnostic fees your company has sold. So when you put a diagnostic fee on an invoice, it knows you sold a diagnostic fee. When you select a department, it knows what department to tie that to. When you associate the work order with the invoice, it now knows what technician sold only a diagnostic fee on what invoices by department, by date range, etc. It knows all of that. So really, it's getting all of that information. I mean, an incredible amount of information is coming from everyday bookkeeping with no extra work, except the one-time event for you to check some boxes and maybe put in a little bit of info that you may not have put in otherwise. Let me show you some other examples. If you go into your chart of accounts, got a lot of chart of accounts here. We go into a chart of accounts, and we do new. Depending on what type you are picking, for example, I'll pick income. You'll see a what best describes this. And if you click that drop down, you'll notice that you have a lot of options. Just because this is an income account, we don't know if it's parts and labor only. We don't know if it's parts and material, or pardon me, we don't know if it's payroll and labor only. I misread that. So we don't know if it's labor. We don't know if it's parts and material. We don't know if it's equipment, like a condensing unit, serialized equipment. Could be a subcontractor, could be other, could be vehicle related, could be sales commission, fringe benefits, etc. So we don't know what that's related to. So if you're selling something, you want to see if there is a description in here that further describes what you're selling, such as a service agreement or an extended warranty. If you don't see a selection that you're looking for, don't worry, because Contractor Compass doesn't need it. So in other words, we only give you options that we need for Contractor Compass and possibly other reports. You could do none, and that would tell everybody that someone has looked. So by selecting none, it only has one effect. It just simply says, I checked, it's not in there. None, or not applicable would be the same thing. Now, if this is recurring revenue, and we all know how important recurring revenue is for all of us, you sell a service agreement, that's recurring revenue, especially if it's monthly, you would check that box. You would go into what best describes, pick service agreement. Let's just do that together here. You go find service agreements, you check the box, you give the income a name called service agreements. Now the software understands that you have income called service agreements. That's fine. QuickBooks can do that. But it further understands that this is service agreements. It could read the word service agreements, but what if you had more than one? And what if we were forcing you to use those words? This way you can call one or more income accounts anything you want and identify that revenue as service agreements so that it all comes into the same place if you want it to. And by checking that box, the software now understands how much of your income is recurring revenue. Now, if you're wondering where to get that information, it would either be on the scoreboard or the dashboard, or it's possible we haven't used it yet and we put it in there for future use, another dashboard. And that is the case with recurring revenue. You won't see it right now, but that's going to be in our budget financial projections system that we're coming out with. All right, now, cancel. Let me show you another before I move on. If you pick, say, cost of goods sold, then you'll have other choices. So it may show you different choices. Go through your chart of accounts and make sure that you have all those selected. If you want to know how to easily figure that out, then if you look over here in these columns, you should see the what best describes. If you don't see it, come down to preferences, show columns, and add the what best describes so that you can make sure that you have that selection. All right. I'll give you another example. Let's go to, say, work order types. I'll go to company work order type. Now, you can call something a callback. You can call something plumbing install if you want to. But how would it know? How would it know what you meant? And if we told you that if you ever want to do preventative maintenance, you have to call it preventative maintenance, well, then that keeps you from calling things what you want to call them, and it keeps you from having more than one that's preventative maintenance. So what we've done is we've added a what best describes here too. Now remember, if you don't see what you're looking for, it doesn't matter to us. It might matter to you. You might say, well, I want you to add to this, but it wouldn't really help you because we are using this information ourselves for the dashboards, scoreboards, and maybe reports. But you wouldn't need it. So don't worry if it's not here. You would just pick other, not listed, and that would demonstrate that you've looked. You've looked. Now, keep in mind, we may add additional what best describes. We might add additional options. If we do, we will put those in our release notes for sure. We will put those in our software release notes, and you will know that we did that. Absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about what we have coming. Let me go back to my dashboard or my computer's desktop. We are working on the EGIA budget spreadsheet. If you've ever attended this class, then you will recognize this spreadsheet. It is huge. I mean, it has so much in it. I'm just going to click these buttons here just to give you an idea of what's in here. Now, imagine filling this out by hand. Well, don't imagine it. That's what you have to do. I mean, you have to go in and fill this thing out by hand. Now, thankfully, it talks to different places, so you usually don't have to double entry, but you have to do some double entry. But in order to get this to work, every place you see yellow, then you need to be filling that out. And that's a bunch of work. Let me scroll over here and show you even more. Let's get past the monthly budget number, the report mix. All right, so I could go on and on. I mean, this has a ton of info in it. But again, when you see yellow, that means you're typing in information. It would take you days and days and days to add all of this information. What if we added it for you? What if we just put it in for you? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a new, we'll call it dashboard, but really what it is, remember the product's called Contractor Compass. It can launch a dashboard, it can launch a scoreboard, but it can also just launch an Excel spreadsheet that's mostly filled out for you. So we're going to launch the spreadsheet not as a report, but more as a, hey, we filled this out for you. You can finish it now. And you'll be able to finish it, and you can relaunch it and have it update what it can update, and you can finish it again. We're just trying to save you days of work. Now, what if you're not part of EGIA? Then you're thinking, I don't care about that. Oh, let me get into this one. This is our budget. So we're working on our own. I need to close. No, I don't. I can get around it. All right, so here's our budget. Come in here, you add some assumptions, and then you add your payroll. There, right here. So you're putting in your payroll, you put in all your people, you put in what you pay them. This is kind of unique because this will handle raises. When you put in your payroll projections, you can project raises for people, and it will accommodate those raises. When that day gets here, and you can always change it, then that raise becomes part of your projections. I've never seen another budgeting forecasting tool take into consideration raises. It was really difficult to get that done, really difficult. We have a payroll summary, then your projections. So where you see green is where you're filling things out, and the software then does the rest of it for you. So again, you fill out the green, and then it handles the rest of it. You'll see a lot less cells in here that need to be filled out. When you do your payroll and you do your income and overhead projections, It will give you an income statement. It will show you your actual income statement. It will show you that compared to your projected income statement and the difference. It'll also fill out, without you doing anything, it's going to fill out your balance sheet. So you're going to have an accurate balance sheet, as accurate as your projections, but it'll show you what your balance sheet should look like if you meet your projections. It will show you your cash flow statement for your projections. So you'll make a prediction, right? Fill it out, do the payroll, do the income statement, the mock income statement, and then it'll show you what your payroll is going to look like before and after raises. It'll show you what your income statement is going to look like. Compare that to your projections. It's going to show you your balance sheet, your cash flow statement. It'll show you your capital expenditure and depreciation. It'll show you your annual sales summary. It'll show you your company's valuation. So there is a valuation calculator in here to show what your company is worth using a very accepted method of business valuation. There's also some what-if tools in here. You look at your projections, you look at your actuals, and you think, what if I raised my prices 1%? What if I decreased my overhead by 1%? What if we increased sales by 2%? Whatever those are, put them in here, see how well it would work out for you. Maybe you have certain products and you want to see what would happen with those products if you raised your price, sold more of them, sold less but sold them for more. What if we pay more? What if we lower costs, etc.? That's in there too. And those are drawing as much information as it can from your bookkeeping data, right? So when you put things into Total Office Manager, we are grabbing as much of that information as we can and putting it in here. Finally, one more to show you that we will be working on. These will take a while. We just got done with the scoreboard for the techs. We're working on a marketing and sales dashboard. And I think people will really love this one. After all, what's more important than making the sale? So when you come in here, it will populate all the sales and marketing information that it can. And you can see this is partially working. We're not creating this from scratch. This is where we're at with it so far, but we still have a lot of work to do to get the data in here and make sure that it's accurate and cleaned up. Remember how this feature works if you came late. When you install Contractor Compass, it makes a connection to your Total Office Manager company file. And when you launch an Excel file, it fills out that Excel file. And then it presents it to you in a nice manner, which you can turn off and modify that spreadsheet if you want to. But the whole idea behind this is we know everyone needs to use Excel to run your company. You know you need Excel. Well, this just capitalizes on how great Excel is, but it eliminates the biggest hassle with running your business with Excel, all the darn double entry, all of the work you have to do. So our goal is to do most of that work for you and get you in here. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing. Let me close these files out and we'll stop here. Just want to show one more thing. Okay, let's open up one of these. We will open up Technician Scoreboard in Excel. So I opened it up in Excel. Now, I'm just going to show you this. You don't have to memorize any of this, right? And if it looks scary, remember, you don't have to deal with it. But when you're here in Excel, you can change colors. You can add fields. You can add columns. You can hide columns. You can add formulas. Do whatever you want. But in addition to that, you have full access to our source code. Now, we don't give you access to source code in Total Office Manager, do we? Well, that's all a proprietary secret, but not here. If you go into the Visual Basic tab, then you will see the Visual Basic editor that's inside of everyone's Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, etc. This is in there whether you knew it or not. It's usually hidden, but it's in there. It's in here for nerds like us who really want to make Excel do magical things like you saw. And so what we've done is we've gone in and written a lot of Visual Basic code, which is what Total Office Manager was written in, by the way. This is just a subset of that code, but it's Visual Basic. So you're looking at source code, and you have access to all of it. And it's really well commented. Every time you go in and look at the code, you're going to see lots of comments on what the code does, what it means, why we did it, where you can learn more, how you could change it, etc. So if you wanted to go in and change the timer interval, then you could go to that code. You could come in here and look through all the code and find something related to the timer interval, and you will see it in here, and you'll see all the comments explaining what you have found, what this code does. And here it is. So we refresh every 30 minutes. It's right there in the code, and it does it automatically, but you don't want 30 minutes. You want an hour. You want 2 minutes. You want 8 minutes. You can have what you want. So we explain how to change it, and we even give you examples of how you would type it in. Who does that? I mean, what other software company is doing that? What other software company embraces Excel and then gives you the keys to all of the proprietary information, software source code, etc.? We do. So it's all in there. All right. So that is available to you if you want it. These are fully customizable, as I said. Just be sure to work off a copy. Those help topics do give you clues on how to get started, but we won't help you with any of this. Let me just give you a disclaimer. There's no way we can be in the business of providing tech support for any of that source code, for the Excel spreadsheet, etc. To be honest, there's very few people that are at this level with Excel. I mean, that could build an Excel spreadsheet that has this complicated of formulas and can do all these things like rank people and make people disappear depending on their department, etc. It is hard to know all that, and there's no way that we could have a support department that could support all of that. Calls could last for 8 hours, 5 days a week. So we can't give you any Excel tech support at all, but it's available to you, and if you are pretty decent with Excel, you'll be able to find help all over the internet, formulas, ways of changing things, doing things. What we did is we did a good job of documenting everything we could so you knew why we did what we did and where we did it, etc. All right, I think that pretty well wraps things up. I'm going to check in with Erica to see if she has anything that she wants me to add or answer for anyone else. Erica? All right. Guess not. Nope. She's saying no. She didn't have anything. All the questions got answered. And were there any last questions from anyone else? I'm in no hurry. I had a big breakfast, so I skipped lunch, so I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Any last minute questions? Anything that you want me to show you before we say goodbye? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming here. If you came in late, I just want to repeat something that's really important to me. I said my company, Aptora, our mission statement is get and keep customers. The reason why I do these is the keep customers part. I want you to feel like we work hard to communicate with you, like that we work hard to show you what we're working on, to explain what we're doing and why we did it and how you can get it. And I want you to get on Aptora Pros and talk to us, good or bad, and complain if you want to and say, how come you don't do this and that? And we won't hide from that. We'll address that because we want to get better. Oftentimes, when you struggle, in fact, I'll say this honestly, most of the time when people struggle with our software, they didn't know about a button, a preference, a setting. They didn't know a feature existed. That happens seriously more than 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes I'll spend time with somebody that can't stand us. I mean, they can't stand us. They hate the software. 1 hour of just showing them around and fixing things and checking the box and turning this on and turning it off. An hour later, they have a completely different attitude. And I think to myself, how many of those people have I never met, never talked to them, and they left? They're still on that journey to find the ultimate software. I want to think that we're the ultimate software. And if we are not, we will be with your help. And that's why I like doing these. And that's why I really appreciate you being here. So I hope to see you on Aptora Pros. Until next time, thanks for being here. I'm James Leichter for Erica, and thanks to all my coworkers. Goodbye. I really didn't understand what she was saying because